Yep. Inside, I want to kill myself. We are on an 0-7 run over the last 2 days. After tonight was just complete bullshit. So that's how I'm going to start off this show. Horrible Sunday, 1-5. I don't even know what to tell you about that. I just don't want to do this anymore. I have never seen anything like this, man. With the slump continuing, 2 straight losses, not a good day at all. 0-4. I just have not had a good season, man. What kind of slump that I'm on? The slump continues. I've reached a new peak, actually. I'm going to burn my Bruins hat, man. I don't know what is going on with the Bruins. March 8th, is that what it is? I don't even know. It's March 9th, I think. Who even knows, man? I don't know what day it is anymore. I don't even know what day it is anymore, man. Back with you after the worst day that I could possibly have. Back with you, as I always am. Until I die, at least. 0-2 yesterday, and yesterday did not go well for me. 0-5. The worst month that I've ever had in my 18 years doing this. I don't know what to even tell you about this anymore. Broke the slump yesterday as the slump discontinues. The slump continues. Somebody fucking kill me, please. I don't even know what I should do at this point other than potentially end it all. What's up, everybody? It's Toad back with you. Toad Stool Sports. It is Saturday, January 3rd. I appreciate everybody for hanging out last night. Degenerate late night, going up until about 3 a.m. last night, talking about the college basketball slate. College basketball is massive, dude. So I appreciate that. I gave out 3 plays. I will reiterate them at the end of the show. You can see the analysis on last night's show. You can follow me on Instagram, and I'll put the videos out there. I put the first one out already, the early one, the noon one. Today, there's no more college football. Usually there's like 1 or 2 other bowls that kind of trickle in, but they didn't really do that this year. So we just got the playoffs left, man, for college football, and that's it. So it'll be interesting. It's more chaotic than last year was, for sure.
Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game. Another game.
Yesterday, we did have the one, winner or push, or however you guys did it. I know a couple of people lost on it. I apologize, but Michigan State, they lost by exactly 2, so they covered the 2.5 for me. Again, I talked about it last night. It's all about the importance of having so many books so you can find the best number wherever you're at. The 2 and 2.5 were definitely readily available. Like, I checked the market like right before the game started. I was looking at the market. I'm like, oh, there's still 2.5s out there right now. So I don't know. But yes, the importance of getting the best number. A little bit lucky on that one, although it was the style of game that I thought it would be. Michigan State played close, low-scoring game. They never trailed by more than, I think, 6 in the entire game. Wound up losing by 2, though, even though they were winning by 3 down the stretch with a couple minutes left. So a little bit unfortunate that they didn't hit on the money line, because if you take a 2.5 dog, they're pretty likely to win outright if they're going to cover or so. But whatever, we move on. Charles, what's up, man? Thanks for hanging out. Yesterday, the board was, I thought, really weak yesterday. Maybe I'm changing like how selective I'm being. I'm being pretty selective here. I got the 3 college basketball plays. I'm skipping the entire hockey board today. I know there are 13 games, but I don't see anything that warrants being on my card, man, in hockey. So I'll talk about it. I don't even know which game I would consider to be the best lean in hockey, to be honest. It's a bad hockey board. And then we got NBA. I have 1 play in the NBA, and I'll give out another one that I think is a pretty strong lean, but not a play in the NBA. And then I'm going to give out an NFL play as well. So let's get into it, man. Yeah, we're skipping it, unfortunately, because I look at this board, I'm like, there's got to be something that I like enough to put on my card, right? But not really. Hockey, we have hockey all day, basically. We have afternoon hockey going on, starting at noon on ESPN, Pittsburgh and Detroit. Pittsburgh just beat Detroit at home, so you could argue this is a zigzag spot. So when usually when a team doesn't do well in the first game and the teams play each other again, the team that didn't do well the first time will make some adjustments for the next game. Although it's not like the first game here was a blowout. It was a 4-3 overtime win for Pittsburgh. So I don't really know if the zigzag applies that significantly here. I've got to dig into the box score, like what exactly happened here. Well, Pittsburgh was winning 2-0. They blew the lead. They actually never trailed in the entire game. Now, was there anything misleading about the result? Not really. The statistics were pretty close. Fairly even played games. So, I mean, this has to be a game that I pass, although both teams should get up for this game. I mean, both teams are doing all right this year, so I don't see like Pittsburgh overlooking Detroit this next time or whatever. I don't even know who does Pittsburgh play next. I don't think they're going to overlook Detroit here, though. All right, Columbus tomorrow. Yeah, that's what I think I remember that, yeah. So anyway, yeah, I think both teams will be focused on this game. I'll slightly lean to Detroit, just the very, very mild zigzag approach here. Maybe Detroit will have enough adjustments to make that they win the game. They just lost on the road. Maybe they can get it done at home, even up the home and home here against Pittsburgh and split it 1-1. Split it, not skip it. 83% of tickets, 92% of the cash on Detroit. So the money somewhat seems to agree with it right now, though they dropped from -145 to -135 on the money line. All right, we have Utah at New Jersey. Utah is coming into this game after beating the Islanders 7-2, and normally I wouldn't love playing on a team that just won by 5 goals, but I think Utah might be the right side here. I don't think they're going to overlook New Jersey, and New Jersey did just beat Utah in Utah on December 19th, so maybe there's some adjustments to make here. It's kind of one of those quick road reversal revenge angles. I'm not saying that necessarily is going to motivate the team more, but it might mean that Utah's not going to overlook New Jersey here, etc. Whereas New Jersey actually might overlook Utah, as New Jersey does have a bigger game on deck against Carolina, and then they play the Islanders. They play Carolina tomorrow, actually, and then the Islanders. So it is possible that New Jersey doesn't take Utah seriously here, which is why I think Utah might be the play in this game, if you're going to play the game at all. New Jersey did just break a 4-game losing streak with a win over Columbus, and normally I would say that's going to propel you forward and give you momentum. They're actually returning home from a road trip, although it was only a 2-game road trip. They've had numerous days off, so yes, they are rested, but to me, it looks like they could easily look ahead to Carolina in this one. And yes, I know Utah, probably not as good as what they looked like in their last game, and normally I'd want to fade a team that won like that, but they played more recently 2 days ago, and that might help carry that momentum through into this one. And Utah is staying in the same area, basically. They're just going from New York to New Jersey, so not a huge travel spot whatsoever for Utah there. So I think Utah is the way to look in that game. New Jersey's down from -140 to -120 on the money line, so the market is seemingly agreeing with Utah. 67% of tickets, 65% of the cash on New Jersey. Buffalo at Columbus. This might be the strongest opinion that I have in hockey, and it is pretty simple that Buffalo is in a letdown spot here, in my opinion. Although Buffalo's won now, I don't know what this is, 10 games in a row maybe. They're on complete fire right now, obviously. They just won at Dallas 4-1, which is crazy. They've been off since Wednesday now, so I think having extra time off might actually hurt them. It might stall out their momentum a little bit. And they return home after they play Columbus. Columbus is not exactly an opponent that really you're going to give your full attention to for the most part. So I do see this being a letdown spot for Buffalo. Unfortunately, they only play Vancouver next, though, so it's not really a huge look ahead or anything like that. But after beating Dallas on the road 4-1, I think they are in a bad spot here. Buffalo is. Now for Columbus just played a close game against New Jersey. They've had a bunch of time off as well. They haven't played since Wednesday, but that might help them get over that New Jersey game. They come out with some more focus here probably. They want to get a win at home. That's what I expect here. I think Columbus is the right side in this game. And this might be the one, if I was going to add anything to my card, I think it would probably be this one. Buffalo down from -110 to -108 on the money line. 90% of the tickets and only 63% of the cash on the Buffalo side. So they're very public. They're on fire right now. This might be the spot where that streak ends, man. And I've jumped in front of streaks and been able to beat them before, like with Winnipeg last year. So I don't know. Should I add this to my card as one hockey play here? I'm tempted because I was thinking this is the one that I actually might like well enough to do it. I'm considering it. I mean, the whole thing is based on it being a huge letdown for Buffalo. That's the whole thing in this one. Let me see. Columbus, let me see. What does their home record look like? 8-7-3 at home. Buffalo's 9-9-2 on the road. So Buffalo, mediocre on the road, you know. And I'm trying to think of, are there, because the Olympic rosters just came out, I'm trying to think of, like, is there going to be anything, is that going to cause any sort of distraction, like, for players that got named to the Olympic team or whatever? But I don't know. I don't know if that's going to be the case or not. You know, what can we get on Columbus here in this one? Because this seems to be, like, kind of the cleanest handicap here. Let me see. Although I didn't love that Columbus played a close game against New Jersey, but with multiple days off, you got to think they will be able to do this. And I do like the fact that Buffalo's been off for multiple days now, which might hurt their momentum a little bit. Let me see here. Buffalo, where are you? I'm looking at their, yeah, I mean, this looks pretty good. Everything, it's all -110. Both sides -110, totally across the board. I see it at every single book. I've never seen anything like that, actually. Looking at the Massachusetts books, at least, it's -110. Both sides at every single book. That's crazy. All right. Let's do it. Fine, one extra play here. Buffalo Sabre, or not Buffalo. Holy shit, no, not Buffalo. Columbus, my mistake. Blue Jackets. Oh, hold on. I'm so out of it this morning, man. No sleep. Columbus. I'm sorry. Fade Buffalo. Columbus Blue Jackets. Money line. That is the play there in hockey. All right. Yeah, the Olympics. I don't know if it really factors in that much, but and it's not until next month as well. And NHL will be off during that period of time. And I don't really do any Olympic handicapping, so it'll give me a little bit of a break. Philadelphia at Edmonton here. Philadelphia, they're coming in off a 5-1 loss to Calgary. I told you Calgary was the right side in that game. Philly got smoked in that game, and now they are coming off of a huge break here. They're staying in Alberta, so it should be a bounce-back spot for Philadelphia here. Part of that handicap was they were going to be looking ahead to Edmonton. Now with a few days off to get over that disgusting loss, I think they will show up for this game. I think Edmonton will show up as well, though. Edmonton's staying at home, and they just got wrecked by my Bruins. Woo! Yeah, Bruins. On the same day on Wednesday, so Edmonton also has a lot of time off to overcome that. So both teams are in a very similar spot. So then it kind of comes down to what's the price here. Is the price right? I need to get, dude, I should get some Price is Right clips in here, or the Happy Gilmore clip. The price is wrong, Bobby. All right. But yes, it looks like the money is coming in on Philadelphia for what it's worth here. Edmonton's -173 favorite, down from -175. Normally in a situation like this, I would say you want to be on the better team in that bounce-back scenario, but the money seems to be indicating that maybe the price is too heavy on Edmonton. 56% of tickets on them, 79% of the cash on the Flyers. So the money is saying the Flyers as far as the market read is concerned, but it's a tough game to gauge, man. Kyle, what's up? Thanks for hanging out. Dude, I should get some Kyle South Park clips as well. Why, what did they change with The Price is Right? I watched it up until like a few years. I used to watch it all the time, dude, and I watched it fairly regularly until like a few years ago. I'm an expert at The Price is Right. Like, I know every single game except for like whatever really new ones they added. I know how to play every game. I know how to game the game. Yeah, I'm a Price is Right expert, man. for the most part, although I know prices have probably increased since I last watched the show and whatever. I mean, I don't think Drew Carey is like a bad host or whatever. I think it was stupid they got rid of the bikini models, though. Like, no, the models can't have bikinis on anymore, and they have to put, like, dude models in there as well. Like, come on, man. It's so stupid. Just de-wokeify everything. Bring back the bikini babes. Bob's bikini babes. You don't like Drew Carey? I think he's fine. I used to watch the Drew Carey show. Drew Carey, he was actually a really good host of Whose Line Is It Anyway? The new Whose Line is terrible without Drew Carey. With Aisha Tyler, she's totally unfunny. Not funny at all. The show completely tanked, even though Ryan Stiles and Colin Mockery and Wayne Brady are all still on it. I think they're all funny, but the show is just totally tanked. Like, just the hosting's not as good. Just everybody just has kind of a more woke mindset now. But Drew was definitely a good host of Whose Line Is It Anyway, because he played like that straight man type of character really well, where everybody would just bully him and make fun of him all the time. And I mean, I don't know, it just worked out a lot better with Drew Carey there. He just played the host way better on that show. He was better on those shows. I think he's fine on The Price Is Right. I've watched a lot of it. Almost no audience. Yeah, it was probably during COVID with everybody being a bunch of pussies. Dude, you don't like the male models? You don't like how hot... what's that? And they have those guys shirtless. I'm pretty sure. Still, what was the male model's name? I forget. I used to know all their names, but I can't remember. Yeah, whatever. I was a fan of the Latina chick that they had on over the last decade or so. That model for The Price Is Right. What was her name? Manuela. Was that her name? She was my favorite. Sorry, I'm not enough of a white supremacist. All right. Montreal at St. Louis. I looked at this game and I was thinking I was absolutely going to be on St. Louis in this game when I looked at Montreal's scheduling spot. I mean, look at how bad this is. Montreal, they were on the road before Christmas. They've been on the road since Christmas. They went to a shootout at Tampa Bay. They won in overtime at Florida. And then they won at Carolina 7-5. And now they play at St. Louis. And then tomorrow they got to play Dallas. So, yeah, this is an unbelievably bad spot, obviously. This is a huge sandwich spot. Coming off those monster games, 2 monster wins, and then with a monster opponent next. I don't see them focusing on St. Louis at all. But then I looked at St. Louis's schedule, and I'm like, really? Because St. Louis just beat Vegas yesterday. So they're on a back-to-back, and they're coming off a big win. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me, man. And yes, they did have rest prior to yesterday. But there's this whole goaltending thing going on in St. Louis right now where Hoffer looks like he's kind of become the guy now. And, of course, he's likely to not play now because he played yesterday. So on the back-to-back, it's probably going to be Binnington. And that has not gone well at all, as they've lost his last 3 starts, and they've given up 4, 6, and 7 goals in those starts. Or, excuse me, they've lost 4, excuse me. The other one was a 2-1 OT loss to the Rangers, who can't really score. But it's been bad for Binnington, man. And the fact that they're on a back-to-back, although I know, again, they had rest prior to yesterday. Although, really, they actually only had a day off prior to yesterday, so it wasn't really that much. So, unfortunately, I think I just have to stay away from this one on the back-to-back. At least for them, they're staying at home, but they are in a potential letdown spot here. Although I don't really think they're going to overlook Montreal, because Montreal's been decent. So if you're going to play it, I think you still have to play St. Louis. Montreal's in a horrific spot, but St. Louis is just really not in a great spot here either. They're in a negative spot, in my opinion. So I'm staying off of this one. 85% of the tickets are on Montreal. They're up to -140 from -120, and 81% of the cash on St. Louis. So the money is indicating on the St. Louis side. And yes, I still agree with it. Tampa Bay at San Jose. Tampa Bay, they're hot, obviously. I mean, they've been good most of the season. They got Vasilevsky back now. He's likely to be back in net, I assume, because Johansson played in the last game on the back-to-back. They've won 6 games in a row. They just beat L.A., but now they're going to San Jose. It is possible they overlook San Jose, though, because this is already a successful road trip for them. They've already gone 2-0 on the road trip. This is the final game. And now they, after this, they come back home and they play Colorado. So they may look ahead to Colorado. That's a massive game on deck. So it is possible they don't fully focus here in this game. But San Jose, in their last game, they won in a shootout against Minnesota. So that was a huge win for San Jose as well. They've had a bunch of days off. Now they've been off since Wednesday, and they won 3 games in a row prior to that. So I worry that that rest might hurt their momentum a little bit. So I think it's another one. Got to just stay off of it. Although I don't know. I tend to think that maybe the spot's a little bit worse for Tampa here, but the money's coming in on Tampa Bay. They're up from -200 to -218. They're a monster favorite. 56% of tickets, 98% of the cash on them. But I don't know. I think if you're going to play Tampa Bay in here, and you'd have to like lay a puck line on it on the road. I mean, that seems kind of insane to me, even though San Jose does sometimes give up a lot of goals. I don't think either team's in a good spot, but I think taking the hefty underdog price at home might be the way to look in that game with San Jose. But obviously, I don't want any part of that. Winnipeg at Ottawa. I mean, I just do this because I have to just go through my thought. I mean, I already went through my thought process, but I'm showing you guys what my process is here. Winnipeg, I mean, they have not been good, even with Hellebuck back. They've lost 8 games in a row. They did have Comrie in net in their last game, and that didn't go well. They lost 6-5 at Toronto. Now they're going to Ottawa. Winnipeg can't afford to overlook anybody right now, man. So I think they're going to show up in pretty much every game right now to try to get a win. They're not going to look ahead to Vegas right now. So I expect them to show up. For Ottawa, maybe that's more in question because Ottawa just beat Washington. So that was a nice win for Ottawa. It did break a 3-game losing streak, but you could argue they're in a letdown spot here. And they do play Detroit next, and maybe that will attract more of their focus because Detroit is a better team, and they have a good record this year. So it does look pretty sandwichy here for Ottawa, so I would lean to Winnipeg in this game. The money seems to agree. Ottawa's down from -145 to -125 on the money line. 56% of the tickets on them, 93% of the cash on Winnipeg. So the money is coming in on the Winnipeg side here. You know, thinking about this one a little bit more, I do like it, you know? Like, should we try to play Streak Buster in both ways today? Am I going to add 2 hockey plays on the fly when I thought I was going to have none? I don't know, man. I mean, this one, I guess I have to stay away. I mean, Winnipeg is playing a 3rd game in 4 days, all in different cities, so I don't love that. Actually, a 4th game in 6 days, all in different cities as well. So that is a little bit of a difficult scheduling spot, rest spot there. So I'll stay off of it, but I do lean Winnipeg in that game for sure. Let me just make sure Columbus is not in it. I think they're not, right? I already looked at this. Columbus, yeah, they haven't played since Wednesday. So, yeah, we're fine with the Columbus play. All right. Where was I? We need a bookmark here, man. Garrett is rooting for the Panthers and the Tar Heels. Yes. If you watched my show last night, you probably don't like what I had to say about the North Carolina basketball game. And I don't think you're going to like what I have to say about the NFL game either. Although you might like what I have to say about the other NFL game that matters for you, which is tomorrow. So there's still hope for you. Big day in the Carolinas, yes. But as I said last night, there's something really iffy going on with that line. Like SMU is a favorite against North Carolina. And I always talk about when you see an unranked favorite against a ranked team, that definitely has to be on your like short list. Like I try to find a situation to back it up because I don't just like blindly playing something like that, but it is something to be noticing, you know, like it is something you have to take notice of. And it is one of the stronger looks in basketball. In basketball last year, it was really, really profitable actually to play on unranked favorites against ranked underdogs because the odds makers are telling you the rankings makers are off. And I showed you that with Ken Palm's rankings. He's got North Carolina somewhere around like 22, and yet they're like 12 in the rankings because they're North Carolina, you know. And I'm not saying North Carolina is bad, and I don't know what SMU really even is at this point because they're not really that good. But yeah, I mean, in those situations, you got to. No, I'm saying in those situations, you want to take the favorite because, like, why is the unranked team favored over a ranked opponent? Like, the odds makers are telling you the rankings makers are full of shit and they don't know what they're talking about. And the odds makers are the ones that have tons of money at stake in the game. So, no, I'm saying SMU is the side to lean to in that game because why would they be a favorite against a ranked opponent? Like, it doesn't make any. The line looks really, really suspect. It looks so easy. They're basically like begging you to take North Carolina. They know they absolutely know they're going to get inundated with like public bets on North Carolina with a line like that. So why is the book doing it? I'm not betting it either, but I'm telling you, do not bet North Carolina. Do not bet the underdog in a situation like that. That is what I'm saying. I'm not saying that you should bet the game. I'm not doing it because I don't have a strong situation to back it up. It's not on my card, but I'm saying that if I was going to play it, the only way that I could play it would be SMU. Nope, I completely disagree. What are you talking about? North Carolina beat Florida State by double digits. What? Nobody's going to care about that. They beat Florida State by basically what was expected. No, that game was not an outlier of any sort. Nobody's putting any weight into that game at all. I don't know what you're talking about, man. No, I disagree completely. That game is completely meaningless as far as it shifting the line on this game. All right, we have Toronto at the Islanders here. Toronto just beat Winnipeg, like I said, 6-5. They look pretty good in that win. Any high-scoring win tends to look pretty good for a team. They beat New Jersey 4-0 the game before that. Now they go to the Islanders, a single road game. Very odd spot, I would say, for Toronto here. And then after this, they have to play Florida, the returning champs. So is it possible they overlooked the Islanders here? Maybe. I mean, the Islanders have a pretty good record, but I think in this spot, maybe that is possible. The Islanders are in a much better spot here because they got smoked by Utah at home in their return home from a quick road trip here. So I think that the Islanders are in a better spot here, in my opinion, to bounce back here. I mean, any team that loses like that at home, you're going to see them come out with a stronger effort in the next game. So I think the Islanders are the right side in this one, but the money is completely disagreeing with that one. This is really the first big-time market disagreement with me on the hockey board here. It's not one of my plays, obviously, but the Islanders look like a public home dog in this game, and obviously I don't love that. Like, when you see a public dog like this, by the way, North Carolina is going to be a public underdog. Red flag. You do not want to play in North Carolina. Islanders, 74% of tickets and 63% of the cash on the Islanders. So they're a public underdog at home, which seems a little bit wild to me because in this case, I actually think they're the right side, but there's no way that I would play it. Toronto up from minus 107 to minus 110 on the money line there. Reverse line movement on that one against the public Islanders, it looks like. So a lot of market indicators on Toronto in that one. Crazy. Chicago at Washington. Chicago just beat Dallas again. Dude, don't even ask me how. Dallas can't beat Chicago, I guess. So Chicago just beat Dallas again. Of course, last time they did, we faded Chicago in the next game, and they got obliterated 7-3. So I do think they're in a letdown spot here, but this time they're facing Washington, which is a better team, so maybe they still show some focus here, but Chicago does play Vegas next, so if they're going to overlook any of these opponents in this three-game stretch, it would be, I would say, Washington, because they're the out-of-conference opponent here, even though they are pretty good. Washington is coming off a 4-3 loss at Ottawa. They're coming back home from that. It was a single-game road trip, but they are playing a third game in 4 days, a fourth game in 6 days, fifth game in 8 days, and they've been moving all over the place as far as travel. So I don't love the spot for Washington here either, travel-wise. So I got to stay away from this. Washington is a massive favorite here, but I think if you play this game, you have to play Washington, in my opinion. Chicago is in a huge letdown spot. 86% of tickets, 97% of the cash on the Capitals. They're down from minus 286 to minus 282. It would be like a puck line play on Washington in this one if you were going to play it, so you'd need them to win by margin, which I know in hockey sounds a little dangerous, but I could definitely see Washington running away with that one and winning that game by multiple goals. The huge game of the day, here you go, Garrett, is Colorado at Carolina here. You might be more happy about what I have to say about this game. Colorado, I mean, it's not like I really want to step in front of Colorado, though. They've had a massive win streak again. What else is new? They've won 9 more games in a row, whatever this is. They're on fire, obviously. They just crushed St. Louis. Who cares? Now they're starting a road trip. And, yeah, normally I say you start a road trip, you have momentum. Usually the momentum carries and you focus on the first game of the road trip. Yeah, I think they will focus. I mean, this is a huge game. Carolina's probably the best team in the Eastern Conference. But Colorado's been off since Wednesday, and I talk about this. When you have multiple days off, it can disrupt your momentum when you're winning, man. The last thing you want when you're winning is to have an extended break. Not that this was that long, but they've been off for a couple of days here, so maybe that will hurt them a little bit coming into this game. For Carolina, they just lost 7-5 at home. So Carolina's actually lost the last 2 games, and they're staying at home. And they lost 5-1 the game before that to Pittsburgh. So I think they're in a much better spot to bounce back here. So I would actually lean to Carolina in this one. The market's kind of difficult to read here. Colorado's definitely going to be a public side. Nobody's going to want to step in front of Colorado. They're down from minus 140 to minus 133 on the money line. So you're getting a pretty decent underdog price with Carolina here. When are you going to get Carolina as a dog at home? Very, very rare. Although, yes, Colorado is very good. 73% of tickets, 98% of the cash on Colorado for now. But I think that if you're taking Carolina here, you're fading the public, and I think it is the right situational side in that game. So that's the way I would do it. If I was going to play it, it would be Hurricanes money line in that one. And we'll see if that streak gets busted as well. It's going to be easier to bust Buffalo's streak, hopefully, though. That's what we want to do today. Nashville at Calgary. Oh, God, I don't like this matchup. I don't like these teams. I just can't get a great gauge on them usually, and they're just both, I just think they're both bad. Oh, man. Nashville's coming off a 4-1 loss to Seattle, continuing the road trip here, but they do have Edmonton next, so are they going to look ahead? I don't know. I mean, after you lose 4-1, you'll probably show up focused in the next game, so Calgary's coming off smoking Philadelphia 5-1, and they've had multiple days off after racking up a 3-game win streak. So I think the spot is worse for Carolina, coming off a pretty nice win, a big win, and having possibly a little bit of momentum stopping rest here. So I do think Nashville is the right side in this game, although Calgary looks like they have 60% of tickets, 73% of the cash on them right now. Maybe the market will kind of shift in this case with the money, with the percentages. Calgary down from minus 127 to minus 118 on the money line there. So there looks like there is some reverse line movement against the Flames in that one. I've not looked, but okay, yeah, the situation, I guess that trend doesn't apply now with the unranked favorite versus the ranked underdog then. But I mean, I think the line could have just moved because the public is starting to get involved and the public is hammering North Carolina. So I don't think that move is all like sharp money. Like, I don't really think it's a sharp move. Although the public, well, I don't know, because the public doesn't really have the ability to move college basketball lines to that degree. Usually it's just NFL because you need a huge influx of public action. When I do the final market read, I'm going to look at my college basketball games that I have. I'm going to do a final market read. I'll look at that game as well just to see what the market looks like. All right, we have Minnesota at LA. Minnesota just got the win against Anaheim yesterday, I believe. I was correct about that game. I believe I said Minnesota in that game. Not a play, though. Now, Minnesota has no time off. This is going to be a tough spot for them on a back-to-back. Third game in 4 days, fourth game in 6 days, fifth game in 8 days. All of them in different cities, even though, of course, Anaheim to LA is a fairly quick trip up the highway, but still, it is technically a different city. So it is a difficult spot for them. Nice win over Anaheim yesterday. Yeah, I don't really love Minnesota in a spot like this, so I think I would probably have to lean to the Kings in this one. The Kings played on Thursday, and they lost to Tampa Bay. They've lost 2 games in a row, but to Colorado and Tampa Bay, those are good teams. LA probably shows up focused with Minnesota coming in. They've been pretty good this year, so I think the spot is favorable to the Kings, so I would say Kings or leave the game alone. Yeah, and Minnesota's a dreaded public underdog here as the Kings are favored. Although I worry because Minnesota's actually really good on the road and the Kings are pretty awful at home, as I've been pointing out. But I think the Kings are the right side in this game. 75% of the tickets, 70% of the cash on Minnesota. So they are a public road underdog. So yeah, again, I like playing anti-public favorites a lot of the time because you know you're getting a decent team. Like, you're getting the favorite and you're fading the public at the same time. So not a bad thing to do in most cases. That one, I don't feel strongly enough about it to put it on my card, but I would lean to the Kings in that one. And then we have my Boston Bruins at Vancouver. The Bruins did just end a long loss streak, man, so finally. So a lot of times when a team ends a loss streak, they'll be focused in the next game. But they could be in a letdown spot because they just pulverized Edmonton on the road, man. That was a nice win, 6-2 Bruins. So I worry that there might be a little bit of a letdown here. They have had a couple of days off, but it's not like they really had any momentum to stop other than the fact that they stopped their losing momentum. I just don't know how focused they're going to be against Vancouver here. Should be Swayman back in net again, I would imagine, because they've had multiple days off, and he's their guy. Vancouver coming in off a shootout loss to Seattle yesterday, so they're on a back-to-back. They had 2 days off prior to that, though, but yes, they are on a back-to-back. They are staying at home, though. But I think the spot, I mean, I probably would have to lean to Vancouver just because I think it is a letdown spot for the Bruins. Bruins are the road favorite here, so at least the odds makers are telling you the Bruins are better than an awful Canucks team. We got it all, baby. We're going to win the cup. Oh, my God. The We Want the Cup chants. Man, I miss going to Bruins playoff games. Playoffs, what? Bruins up from -122 to -125 on the money line in that one. All right, let's go to NBA, where I am going to have one play in the NBA that I actually like quite a bit. We have, I don't know, about 8 NBA games here to talk about. With one early one at 5 p.m., Minnesota at Miami, and this is the one that almost made my card. I like Minnesota in this game. Minnesota just got smoked by Atlanta by 24 points, and they have been off since Wednesday now, so I think that's good. Minnesota's going to come into this thing with rest. They're coming off a really hideous loss, although I have a little bit of concern with Minnesota, though, because in that game, if you didn't see the headlines, Anthony Edwards, he got benched in the game because the game was out of hand, so they put him on the bench in the fourth quarter, and he didn't stay with his teammates. He got up off the bench with like 7 minutes left in the game because he assumed he wasn't going to come back in the game, whatever, and he was all pissed off and being a bitch, and he left. He went back to the locker room. So very, very weird move by Anthony Edwards, man. So things are not exactly great in Minnesota right now. However, maybe that stuff is being overstated, and I do think that they are the right side in this game still. That was a horrible loss, no doubt about it. I think they're going to show up focused in this one. They're playing against the Heat, who have been okay. It looks like the Heat will have Adebayo in this game, even though he is questionable right now. Hero is expected to not come back until their next game, which I think is actually tomorrow. Miami's on a 4-game win streak, but look at what they just did, man. Even without Hero, they just beat Denver, although granted, Jokic went down in the middle of that game. And then they beat Detroit on the road in their last game. So it looks like a letdown spot to me for Miami here. So I do worry that, yes, maybe Miami will still show up for a game against Minnesota. Miami does have one fewer day of rest than Minnesota does, by the way, because they played on Thursday. And I believe, When did Minnesota last play? The 31st or the 1st? Hang on. Yeah, the 31st. So I guess, yeah, we'll see what happens there. But I got to remember my train of thought again here. Yeah, Miami still might show up for a game against Minnesota. That's the problem. Like, they're not really an opponent that you usually overlook. But I do think the win against Detroit was bigger for sure. Beating the team that has the best record in your conference, huge win. So I think Minnesota is the right side in this game. And this almost is on my card. But the market is doing weird things. Minnesota went up from a pick'em to a 2.5-point favorite. I don't know if that was because Hero looked like he was going to play and now he's not. I don't know what the deal is here. But 61% of tickets, 55% of the cash on the T-Wolves. So it looks like after the line got driven up, it looks like some of the money is actually fading the T-Wolves here. But based on the situational analysis that I do here, I think if you play the game, I think it's got to be Minnesota, and I almost put that on my card. Now, Philadelphia at the Knicks here. Yes, sir. Philadelphia, they're coming off They're coming off beating Dallas here 2 days ago. Now they're traveling up from Dallas to the Knicks. They're not going to overlook the Knicks. I mean, beating Dallas is kind of whatever. You got to think Philadelphia is going to show focus here, although the last time they were here, they won. So the Knicks might be playing with a little bit more of a chip on their shoulder here. After losing at home to Philadelphia last time, the Knicks might have the adjustments to make here. But both teams are going to show up for this game, in my opinion. Of course, the Knicks are on a back-to-back, though, so a little bit of a difficult spot rest-wise for the Knicks here, as they're playing 3 games in the last 4 days, 4 games in 6 days, and actually 5 games in 8 days, and actually 6 in 10 going all the way back to Christmas, and 7 in the last 12. They played a lot of games recently, man. This Knicks team, because they played in the NBA Cup all the way to the final, they're getting and won it, I believe, right? They're getting like no let up here. So actually, that was before that. Never mind. The Cup was before that. So I don't know. This has been a jammed schedule for the Knicks, man. So I worry about that, although yesterday we were correct with the Hawks yesterday. The Knicks were coming off that huge game against San Antonio. They just had a huge flat spot game yesterday, man. So I expect them to bounce back as well. I think the Knicks will show up in this game, but they are on the back-to-back here, so that is a little bit of a concern. What does the market look like? Well, the Knicks are a 3.5-point favorite now, but the money is indicating somewhat on the Sixers. 79% of tickets on the Knicks, only 70% of the cash. So the money is somewhat saying to take the points with the Sixers here. And, of course, you got to see are the Knicks resting anybody or anything like that? I don't think so, because I think they will try to show up and win this game against a team that beat them here last time. It looks like Karl Anthony Towns is a game-time decision with an illness, so we don't know what's going on with him. I think we already knew Hart was out. Mitchell Robinson, game-time decision as well. So we will see. And then Embiid on the Sixers side is always a game-time decision. To me, I think both teams are still going to try to show up and win this game, though. So it's a difficult handicap. The money is saying to take the points with the Sixers, but I don't have that much of an opinion. William, what's up, man? Thanks for hanging out. Good morning. Atlanta at Toronto. Here's your best bet, baby. The one bet in the NBA here. Let's go for it. We're going to lay the points with the Toronto Raptors, -3.5 here. And I know the Raptors have been iffy at home, but this is a spot that I actually love. The Raptors are only 10-8 at home. I know Atlanta has actually been probably better on the road. Yes, they've been better on the road than at home. They're 11-8 on the road. So, yes, I worry about that slightly, that Atlanta's a good road team and Toronto's a bad home team. But in this spot, I just think you have to fade Atlanta here, man. I mean, as we already mentioned, Atlanta's coming off smoking the Knicks yesterday. So they're on a back-to-back with travel, having to travel up from New York to Toronto. You know the Knicks play like more of a kind of physical style. They play defense, so Atlanta having to come off of that, not going to be easy. That was a huge win, too. So this could be a letdown spot against a Toronto team. It's been pretty mediocre. And the game before that, Atlanta beat Minnesota on Wednesday. So they're playing a third game in 4 days, all in different cities. It's actually a fourth game in 6 days, all in different cities, because they were in Oklahoma City on Monday. And before that, they were back at home, and they played 2 games in a row. They played back-to-backs coming out coming out of the Christmas break. They played Friday, Saturday, so they're actually playing, what is this? It's 4 games in 6 days, 5 games in 8 days, and 6 games in 9 days. That's crazy. With the last, 4 of them being in different cities. Really, really difficult spot for Atlanta here. Not just because of the letdown spot, but the travel and lack of rest on top of it. This is an insanely bad spot for the Hawks. Now, for Toronto, it is a way better spot. I know they're coming off a tough game against Denver, although that was Denver without Jokic, remember. And I did say that Denver was the side to look at in that game. Injured player theory spot. Denver showed up. Now, that was a big game for Toronto, no doubt about it, even without Jokic. It's always big when you play against Denver. Denver is really good on the road. Toronto's not good at home, I know. And Atlanta is also good on the road, like I said, but they're not Denver, of course. Even Denver without Jokic, I think, is a fairly formidable opponent. Toronto took the loss by 3, but they've had a lot of days off to rest, man. Their rest spot is so much better than Atlanta's here. Toronto hasn't played since Wednesday, so they're coming in off a loss, staying at home, and they have nothing really ahead to focus on. They play Atlanta twice, actually, and then Charlotte. Then they get the Celtics, which they're going to be focused on the Celtics game. But up until then, I think this is the next game they're going to focus on here today against, I almost said the Falcons, against the Hawks. That's what we're going to go with. We're going to go with the Toronto Raptors. They have 56% of tickets, 60% of the cash on them. They're up from 3 to 3.5. It's not football, so the 3 is a little bit less key here. So that's what we're going to do, and we're going to lay it with the Raptors in that one and hope that they're not the Craptors in this game. The Drake curse. Dude, I need to get the Seinfeld Drake clip so I can use it for when we're talking about Drake May or when we're talking about Drake, the basketball team. Drake, yeah, in this case, you're talking about the rapper, I assume. I don't know what the Drake Toronto curse is, but yeah, Drake, he's got some sketchy stuff in his background, man. Charlotte at Chicago. This is a weird game. This game is a little bit hard for me to figure out, to wrap my mind around. Charlotte's on a back-to-back. Charlotte played yesterday at Milwaukee, and they almost won. Remember, that's Milwaukee with Giannis back now, I'm pretty sure, so unless he's hurt again. So Charlotte played pretty well in that game against a Milwaukee team that presumably was favored by a decent amount in that game. Now they're on a back-to-back playing in Chicago. It's not a huge trip, though. Milwaukee to Chicago, very quick. But they do have Oklahoma City up after this. Don't really know exactly how much focus they're going to have on Chicago, man. It is possible they're a little bit gassed after taking Milwaukee to the limit. And then with Oklahoma City next, doesn't look like a terrific spot for Charlotte here to me. Back-to-back, they're playing a third game in 4 days in different cities. Actually, a fourth game in 6 days as well, although the first 2 of those are at home. Chicago, they just beat Orlando. That was a decent win for Chicago. That pulled them back into 500 territory, and that was yesterday, so they're on a back-to-back. They're playing a third game in 4 days and fourth game in 6 days, but for them, all of those games are at home, so they're at least staying at home here. You could argue they're in a sandwich spot, though, because that was a big win over Orlando, who's probably going to be a playoff team, and they have almost definitely a playoff team, the Celtics, coming up next, and then Detroit, and then Miami. So all these games are bigger than this game against Charlotte, so both teams are kind of in bad spots here, man, so I can't do it. Again, this game is trippy for me. The money is all over Charlotte for what it's worth. The Bulls are up from 1.5 to 2 here. 59% of tickets on the Bulls. 84% of the cash coming in on the Hornets, though. So market read is definitely strongly indicating on the Hornets. So you can, you have that information to work with if you want for your own handicapping purposes and whatever. I don't have much of a reason to disagree with the market, but I don't want any part of Charlotte either. I just don't want any part of either team, but I think both teams are in bad spots, like I said. So then we have Portland at San Antonio. Portland, they're coming off beating New Orleans. Decent bounce-back win. That was yesterday, though, so they are playing a third game in 4 days. They're playing a fourth game in 6 days, all in different cities, and actually a fifth game in 7 days. The rare fifth game in 7 days in the NBA. It doesn't happen very often, so even though they had a nice bounce-back win yesterday, it is a tough spot for Portland here, man. Rest-wise, they're going to be potentially a pretty tired team here. San Antonio just had an easy win against Indiana, although they're actually traveling as well, and they're on a back-to-back. But they're playing a third game in 4 days with one road game in there against Indiana. The rest of the game's at home. Fourth game in 6 days for them. So I think the spot is a little bit easier for the Spurs here. But the money looks like it's indicating on the Blazers, which is kind of crazy. Like, there's no way I would want to take the points of the Blazers in a spot where they're playing a fifth game in 7 days. I mean, there's no way I could do it. But that is probably going to be factored into the line a little bit. The rest factor does get factored into the line a bit. The Spurs are up from 7.5 to 8 here. 86% of the tickets, only 62% of the cash. So the money is saying to take the points of the Trailblazers. Money coming in against the public here. I don't think I could do it, man. It was a nice bounce back win, so they do have momentum here. And as far as like who the opponents are, yes, I could see the argument that San Antonio will overlook Portland. So I could definitely see that argument. But they only have Memphis up next. Then they have the Lakers, and then Boston, then Minnesota, then OKC. So those are the big games coming up after the Memphis game. So I don't know. It's a complete stay away from me, but there's your market read on that one and the situational analysis or lack thereof. Houston at Dallas in a battle of Texas teams here. Houston beat Brooklyn the other night. Doesn't really matter, but they are having to travel from New York down to Dallas now. With 1 day off in between, they should be in an okay rest spot here because they had a couple of days off prior to the Brooklyn game. Probably they'll show up to play against Dallas because they actually lost the last time they were here by 13 points. So that was back on December 6th. Houston might remember that and might have the adjustments to make here. So I don't really see them overlooking Dallas in this one. Dallas coming into this game off of losing to Philadelphia at home. They're staying at home. That was the first game back home from a road trip. And I talk about how when teams play poorly in the first game back home from a road trip, they do play better in the next game. Obviously, Dallas is not going to overlook Houston either. So it's a game where I think both teams are going to show up. And then it's a matter of what's the number in the game. Well, it's 8. It's going up a little bit to 8 with juice. And the money seems to be indicating that the professional guys seem to be saying they think the Rockets are favored too heavily in this game. 76% of tickets, only 63% of the cash on them. So the money is indicating to take the points with the Mavs. It's a stay away from me, obviously. Utah at the Warriors here. Jazz, Warriors. Utah at Golden State. Utah just took a loss in LA. Now they're going up to Northern California here. They lost to the Clippers, not the Lakers. I keep just saying LA, Clippers. So it's an uglier loss to lose to the Clippers, although they've been playing well right now, which might be bad for the Celtics today, which I'm going to talk about that as the last game on the board here. Utah's not going to overlook Golden State, I wouldn't imagine. They should show up for this game. They're going to be looking for a win, although Utah's not as good on the road as they are at home. Golden State just got smoked by Oklahoma City yesterday, though. So Golden State is on a back-to-back, but that was a return home spot. And by the way, there was one other return home spot that we had in a team's previous game that I forgot to mention. I apologize. I forget which team it was, but I would point it out just because usually when a team returns home and they fall into that distracted spot, they tend to bounce back and do better in the next game. So Golden State is in a positive spot here, except for the fact that they played yesterday. Although I think they did rest some guys yesterday, probably, especially once they were getting blown out. I would imagine they just rested a ton of guys for the later portion of that game. So the rest situation for Golden State shouldn't be that bad here. After that, they should bounce back. I mean, even though it's Oklahoma City and they're absolutely elite, you still don't want to lose a game by almost 40 points on your home floor, man. So Golden State should be focused in this game as well. So both teams should be focused. The Warriors are 12.5-point favorite, and some of the money is indicating on the Jazz a little bit. 75% of tickets, 96% of the cash coming in on the Jazz. It would be more of a situation where, again, it's just, is that line on Golden State too big? Maybe it is. I mean, I don't think you're really getting much line value playing the Warriors here, so I don't necessarily disagree with grabbing the points of the Jazz. I think both teams should show up. Golden State has played a lot of games recently, too, though, which I forgot to point out. They're playing a third game in 4 days, now a fourth game in 5 days, and actually they're playing a fifth game in 7 days as well. So the dreaded 5th game in 7 days, with the first 3 of those all being on the road. So unless I looked at that schedule wrong, I think that is the case. A lot of things to keep in mind there. And then my Celtics are at the Clippers here. Celtics coming in off 2 wins against Utah and Sacramento. Not a huge deal. The Celtics have already won the road trip. They're 3-1 on the road trip. This is the final game of the road trip, so it is possible they don't have full focus in this game. The Clippers, on the other hand, are on a roll right now, and they probably will definitely show up for the Celtics. Clippers did just beat Utah as well. Their Clippers have been at home for a while. Since the 28th, they've just been sitting at home, and they've won all these games at home. Both teams actually just beat the Kings in Utah in the opposite order, so both teams coming up beating the same opponents, so there's not a whole lot to see with the common opponents there. Although the Clippers beat them by a bit more, probably because the Clippers are at home. Clippers will show up for the Celtics, though. I mean, that's just the way that it is, so I think the Clippers are probably the way to look here, but there's something going on where the Celtics might be resting players here because the Clippers were going to be a 4-point dog, and now they're a 1-point favorite. So the Celtics they must be resting somebody here. 60% of tickets, 79% of the cash on the Clippers. So the money indicating on the Clippers. It looks very weird to see the Clippers as a 1-point favorite. It might be an overreaction to whatever the Celtics are doing, but I think it's probably Clippers or pass in this game, unfortunately. I think the Celtics may lose this game. And it may be, if they're resting people, they may be saying, well, we just don't care as much about this game. But you do have to worry about, I mean, the Celtics are still a pretty deep roster, man. And a lot of times when they don't play their starters, their backups actually do quite well. So that is something to keep in mind with the Celtics. Their backups actually get excited to play, and they're well coached. So something to keep in mind there. We don't see anything on the injury report as far as what the Celtics are doing here. So I don't know if it's a mystery. I don't know if Joe Mazzulla said anything out there. I have no idea. But the way that the line moved like this, I have to think that somebody's not playing for the Celtics here. So that's what I think might be going on in that game. All right. Best part of the show. Here we go. NFL. And I'm going to have a bet in the NFL as well here. So, and it's in the first game up. And Garrett is going to be pissed off at me. ABC and ESPN have both NFL games today. Both networks, so a lot of people will be able to watch these games, man. We're coming down the stretch. The NFL flexed these games into Saturday because both games have major playoff implications, so of course we get both of these games here. First one up is at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. It is the NFC South battle between Carolina and Tampa Bay. Now, I'm going to say that people think that looking at this game, like the way that the NFL scheduled this, they pretty much they were basically saying this is going to be for the division, right? Like this is like you win, you're in the playoffs, you lose, you're out of the playoffs. But that is not the case in this game. So one of these teams can win the game and still not make the playoffs. And one of these teams can lose and still make the playoffs. And you probably know which team that must be because obviously the team that can lose and still make the playoffs has to be the team with the better record, which is Carolina. So that's going to factor into my handicap in this game. And yes, we're talking playoff.
Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game. Another game.
So it looked like this was going to be winner take all. Like the winner wins the division, the loser goes home, but that is not the case. And it's because Atlanta beat the Rams last week on Monday night. So Atlanta winning threw a wrench into this whole thing because now if you look at the standings, you might be asking, well, how is this the case? So the situation right now, looking at the standings here, Carolina has a 1-game lead over Tampa Bay. If Tampa Bay wins this game, they'll pull into a tie with Carolina. They'll both be 8-9. So then you have to go to tiebreakers, right? And yeah, so it goes to tiebreakers, and then it's like, well, what is the tiebreaker? The tiebreaker, if Tampa Bay and Carolina end up in a tie and Atlanta stays behind them, so for this to be the case, Atlanta would have to lose to the New Orleans Saints tomorrow. So if Atlanta's not in the picture, the tiebreaker is just Carolina versus Tampa Bay. then hold on, I'm trying to get the scenario straight in my mind now. Then, yes, yes, Tampa Bay, I believe if that's the case, then I gotta think about this because I know what the scenario is. If Atlanta wins, I know what the scenario is. Now I'm trying to get the scenario straight in my mind here, man. I apologize because the tiebreaker scenario is very, very weird in this situation, in this division. Now, I believe if Tampa and Carolina are both tied, well, first the tiebreaker is head-to-head, but obviously if Tampa has won this game to tie Carolina up, well, then of course they're 1-1 against each other, so then it has to go to the next tiebreaker, and the next tiebreaker is common opponents, and I believe the common opponent scenario, goes to Tampa Bay. So I believe if Tampa Bay and Carolina wind up in a tie, their head-to-head is 1-1. I believe their common opponents, I believe Tampa Bay has the better record against common opponents, even though, which seems weird because I think Carolina beat Atlanta twice. But, yeah, it's a really weird scenario, but I believe that is the case. So that's how Tampa Bay can get in. So Tampa Bay, they need to win. Well, hold on. I should have started with the simplest scenario. The simplest scenario is if Carolina wins, they win. They're in. So that's the simplest scenario. That is straightforward, very easy to comprehend. Carolina wins, and they're in. And they win the division. They're in the playoffs. That's very, very straightforward here. Now, if Tampa Bay wins, like I said, two scenarios can happen. If Tampa Bay wins and Atlanta loses to New Orleans tomorrow, so Atlanta stays behind them, we just have the tie between Tampa and Carolina. Tampa Bay wins the division. But Tampa actually needs that to happen because whatever, like I said, Tampa Bay, I guess their common opponent record is better, so they win that tiebreaker. But Tampa Bay actually needs that to happen because if Tampa wins this game, Carolina will still win the division if Atlanta beats the Saints tomorrow because Atlanta would pull into a three-way tie with them if that happens. They'd all be 8-9. This is a great division. It could be a three-way tie of 8-9. And if that happens, the tiebreaker is still head-to-head, but it becomes a three-way round-robin head-to-head. So then it becomes who has the best record out of all three of those teams against the other two teams. So with Atlanta entering the mix, that helps Carolina immensely because Carolina actually beat Atlanta both times. So if we wind up in a three-way tiebreaker scenario, Carolina has those two extra wins as part of the tiebreaker. They beat Atlanta both times. So Carolina would win the division. So if Tampa Bay wins this game and Atlanta wins tomorrow, Carolina still wins the division by virtue of the tiebreaker and the fact that Carolina beat Atlanta twice, even though Carolina would be 1-1 head-to-head against Tampa Bay. So Carolina should be sending Atlanta some late Christmas gifts or something like that if that winds up happening. Carolina should love Atlanta if that winds up happening. Now, do I think that that's going to happen? I actually do not. I actually think the Saints are going to beat Atlanta, but that's going to happen tomorrow, so we don't need to worry about that right now. Now, for this game, this comes down to what I always talk about in the final week of the season. So there are a bunch of things you have to worry about in the final week of NFL. Tyson, what's up, man? Thanks for hanging out. A lot of it is about motivation, of course, okay? Because a lot of teams are going to be resting starters, whatever. Obviously, we don't have to worry about that in these games. These games become easier handicaps because obviously, every team is trying to win. We're going to get motivation on every side in the two games today, obviously. So we don't have to worry about teams that have nothing to play for here. But we're going to be worried about that on tomorrow's slate, obviously. So you're going to have teams with nothing to play for. And I'll talk about it more tonight when I talk about tomorrow's games. But usually you actually want to be on the teams that have nothing to play for because they can just go out and play loose. And like if this is literally their last game of the season, they actually have motivation to show up because they want to just go out on a good note, you know what I mean? So that team that's not going to be in the playoffs, this is their last chance to play. So usually they play like loose because there's no pressure on them, and they actually want to show up and win the game. Whereas they might be facing a team that has a lot of pressure on them if they're facing a team that needs to win for one reason or another. And that team that needs to win, usually you're paying a tax for that team. So that's something to be aware of in the final week. You do tend to want to look towards the teams that have nothing to play for, as crazy as that sounds. That is what the deal is. Now, and that doesn't factor in, like, there are going to be games where there are teams that are in the playoffs, but they're resting everybody, and those teams actually tend to not do well at all. Like, they tend to just completely roll over, basically. Even though you think the backups, like, have a reason to play, but whatever. That team is basically looking ahead to the playoffs, so those teams actually usually do poorly, and the public usually doesn't know what to do because the line usually the line reacts, but it actually doesn't tend to overreact. So you're going to see, I'll talk about it tonight, you're going to see a couple of these lines look absolutely insane, and the public is going to misinterpret the line. So I actually think playing on that side where it looks like there couldn't possibly be any value, I think is the correct side more often than not in the final week. So that's something there. Charlotte? What do you mean Charlotte? Charlotte in basketball? Well, I still have to talk about this game, and you don't even know what side I'm on yet. Now, one other thing I will point out that I should wait until tonight, but one other thing I will point out is that when you have two teams that have nothing to play for, you don't want to play an under typically in those games either, because those teams usually don't have reason to go all out because they don't want to get hurt, so they don't go all out on the defensive side of things. You know what I mean? It becomes more of like a scrimmage type of game where teams play well on offense and they don't play as well defensively. So those types of games I think are pretty much over or past for the most part, but although I'm not that much of a totals guy. Now back to this game, Carolina and Tampa Bay, because this is the poster child for one thing that I always talk about is when it comes down to the final week of the season, the other type of handicap that you have to be aware of is the team that controls their own destiny. You know, I've been talking about this for a few weeks now, and I talk about it in college too, versus a team that does not control their own destiny and they need help. And what do I always say about that? The team that controls their own destiny tends to like just focus too much on that, and they tend to not play as well. And that's Carolina in this game. If they win, they're in, and that tends to be like all that they think about. Although, yes, I know in this case, Carolina is an underdog, and I think it is better to fade those teams when they're a favorite, but I'm still going to play Tampa Bay in this game anyway, because first of all, I think, yes, that means that Carolina is going to be in that mindset where we win and we're in, and that like it just becomes this thing that like kind of boils to the surface, and usually it results in like a pressure bubble. So I don't like that. And Carolina also, in the back of their minds, they still got to be thinking there is a scenario where we lose this game and we still get in based on what Atlanta does tomorrow. So I don't like that for Carolina. What I do like is that Tampa Bay is in the other situation where they don't control their own destiny. If they win, they're still not necessarily going to be in. So I think a team like that, they can play loose because they don't like they can't control their own destiny. So it's like we can go out, we can play well, we got to win this game, yeah, but it's out of our hands at that point. So teams that are in that situation tend to play a lot better. So I like Tampa Bay for that reason, but there are also a lot of other things that I like about Tampa Bay in this game, and we're gonna do it. I was hoping the 2.5s would be out there. This line is at like 3 even money right now because the books are just kind of doing this to us and not giving us the better of the key number. They don't want you to get Tampa at 2.5, man, which is kind of a sign as well that the books, the 2.5 was gone pretty quickly there on Tampa Bay. I found a 3 at even money. You could do Tampa money line if you want to here. I saw like minus 148. Not a bad money line price for Tampa Bay, to be honest. So money line is also a fine way to look at this game, in my opinion, but I'm hoping for a 2.5 on Tampa Bay here. Get it under that key number of 3. So I'm going to be watching because you're not going to lose that much if you wait around a little bit. You're probably still going to be able to lay just the 3 or get a decent money line price. Now, the other thing that's interesting about this is these two teams played 2 weeks ago, right? So what has happened between then and now? Well, not a whole lot, but what was the line in that game when Tampa was at Carolina? It was Tampa Bay minus 2.5 on the road at Carolina. So how could Tampa Bay possibly be basically the same favorite at home? Like, you're pretty clearly getting live value on Tampa Bay here. Like, I know NFL home field doesn't matter that much. I think Tampa Bay's home field is more than Carolina's is, by the way. Even though Carolina did pretty decently at home this year, you got to think that these teams probably in a scenario like this, probably the home field is like 1.5 to 2 points probably. So how could Tampa Bay possibly be just 2.5 or 3 here when they were basically that on the road 2 weeks ago at Carolina? It makes no sense. Like, this line should be like 5.5. So you're absolutely getting line value on Tampa Bay. And why is that? It's because Tampa looked like ass again last week. Well, they lost to Carolina 2 weeks ago, but it was a close game, and I'll talk about that game more in a second. But they lost at Miami last week, so that was a bad game for Tampa Bay, and everybody's overreacting right now to the fact that Tampa Bay's lost 4 games in a row. They've lost 7 out of 8, and you remember early in the season I was saying Tampa Bay was going to regress, that Mayfield was going to regress, because I don't actually think he's great. Tampa Bay was winning a ton of close games, so I told you that they were going to regress. But at this point, I think we're actually getting value on them, whereas I think Tampa Bay was overvalued in the middle of the season. It's been like a tale of 2 seasons, and I think the real Tampa Bay, will the real Tampa Bay stand up? I think the real Tampa Bay exists somewhere in the middle of those two. They're not as good as they looked early in the season. They're not as bad as they've looked in this last half of the season, and that was a Carolina sandwich they were in against Miami. I liked Miami to cover in that one. Miami, there's also not a lot of game film on Quinn Ewers. It was kind of a weird spot there. Yeah, Tampa didn't do well in that game, but Tampa's been in every one of these games, man. I mean, they had the possibility of winning all these games, and the last time they were at home was that loss on primetime to Atlanta, so I think they're going to be happy to return back home and avenge that loss. If you remember, they were winning that game by 14 in the fourth quarter, man, so it's not like Tampa Bay is having no chance in these games or anything like that. Like, they've been winning most of these games, and they were winning a lot of the game against Carolina as well, though the game was close the whole way. But if you look at what happened in this game, Tampa was actually the better team in this game. They led, I think, for more of the game than Carolina did. But if you look at the stat sheet, Tampa Bay outgained Carolina by 21 yards. They lost the turnover battle by 1. They had more penalties, so they were the less disciplined team. But they had more first downs. They had way more time of possession by 9 minutes. So Tampa Bay was actually the better team in this game, man. It just so happened that they wound up losing the game at the end. But again, the final score doesn't tell you the whole story here, man. And Tampa Bay was a little bit better than it looked. And then we also have experience here. Which team is more experienced? I mean, come on, man. It's so obvious. It's not even close. Like, this is effectively a playoff game here. Which quarterback would you rather have here? A very inexperienced Bryce Young here, or would you rather have Baker Mayfield, even though I know I just said I don't think he's actually that good, whatever, but come on, man. I mean, Baker Mayfield, he has multiple playoff wins in his career. He's the way more experienced QB. Tampa Bay has been here and done that. And until further notice, I don't see a reason to fade Tampa Bay here, man. Like, until they actually lose the division, they're still the team to beat in the division, man. And they're the team with experience. They're the team that's been here and done this repeatedly. So they're very, very, very used to doing this, whereas Carolina is not. Carolina is still this young upstart team, so they're not used to being in a scenario like this. So I think the fact that Tampa Bay has done it many times before, I think that helps as well. So Tampa Bay is the side in this game, man. That is my play in this one. We're going to see what the market winds up looking like here. Panthers, 55% of tickets, 56% of the cash for now. We'll see what happens. I think the Panthers are going to be a square side in this game, though, because, well, also I forgot to look at what has Carolina done recently. Well, Carolina lost to Seattle last week, but the public's not going to weigh that game that heavily. Like, yeah, okay, they lost to a good team, Seattle. Nobody's really going to knock Carolina for that. I'm not going to knock them either. But Carolina's just looked better than Tampa Bay recently just because they've won some games recently, including against Tampa Bay, and they beat the Rams not that long ago. So the public wants nothing to do with Tampa Bay, though, because they've been so ugly, man. Tampa Bay, they've lost 6 of their last 7 games, so no public bettor is going to want to lay points with Tampa Bay here. But I actually think there's value in doing it. That's what we're going to do. And yes, according to pregame here, it looks like the look ahead, which was the line prior to last week's games, was actually only 3.5. And I think that would have actually been slightly low as well. But if you're going to give us a better number than that and give us the hook, I'm all for it. And the money looks like it's slightly coming in on the under in this game as well. 77% of tickets on the over, 76% of the cash on the over. I know the last time these two teams played, it landed right around this number. It landed 43, and the total's 44. And there were a lot of field goals in that game, but I know both defenses are not that good, but I could see this game being kind of like a playoff atmosphere. And in a playoff atmosphere, a lot of times the game starts out really low scoring. So I don't hate the under in the game. I think it makes maybe more sense to go under in like the first half or something like that, like kind of what I do with like Super Bowls and stuff like that, where the teams kind of feel each other out a little bit early in the game, although that tends to be more the case with teams that don't know each other well, though. These teams do know each other, but then again, because these teams know each other, that means they know how to defend each other's offenses and what the offenses are going to do. So that still kind of lends itself a bit more towards an under type of game there. So I don't mind an under in that game, but I like Tampa Bay in that game. And then the second game up is Seahawks 49ers, which has somewhat fewer implications here because both teams are already in the playoffs, so there is that. So this is a game about seeding at 8 p.m., also on ABC and ESPN here. Now for this game, I mean, the line looks really, really bizarre, where the Seahawks, prior to last week's games, I guess were going to be a 1-point dog, and now they've moved to a 2.5-point favorite. They were a 1-point favorite when this line came up, and now they're 2.5, and this just looks really, really odd, right? Like, how could the Seahawks be a favorite on the road against a 49ers team that's looked really, really hot recently, a 49ers team that's scoring all over the place? Like a dude in a horror house or something, I don't know. But the line looks very, very strange, man. I mean, the public is not going to be on the Seahawks side in this game. Oh my God, I get the 49ers as an underdog at home and they can score like this. 69% of tickets, 69% of the cash on the 49ers. Now, if you liked the Seahawks, I think you kind of missed the boat because they were like a 1-point favorite. You could have like money lined to them or something like that. And this line is headed towards 3, which I really didn't expect it to get that far. I mean, maybe there will be some take back on the 49ers because this line seems to be getting a little high, although I do agree with the Seahawks side in this game, but I do have concerns about it as well. But first of all, yes, the Seahawks are the better defense here, and that is pretty much the main reason why. The public likes offense, which is the 49ers. The 49ers defense is actually not very good right now, even though they have Robert Saleh there. I mean, he's doing his thing, but the 49ers just have an immensely injury-plagued defense. Like they've been without their 2 best defensive players most of the year. So that is a problem, even though, yes, the 49ers have the better offense and they have the quarterback who's more experienced and has been better in big games. So, yes, Brock Purdy, there are some advantages there, and that's really the concern about the Seahawks is the quarterback play here. That's the thing you really have to be worried about with the Seahawks here. Now, getting the better defense, I would much prefer doing it if they were an underdog, right? Like, if the Niners were a 1-point favorite, it would be a lot more tempting to grab the 1 point with the Seahawks here. Laying them as a favorite as the better defense, I definitely worry about that. Like, we need to see more out of Sam Darnold, man. That's kind of the issue here. Sam Darnold, we know what he's done. He's turned into a pumpkin in all these big games. Like, the Rams last year and the Lions last year just absolutely made him look awful in those big games. Like, it seems like he crumbles under the pressure. And I know he had that big win over the Rams and a huge comeback the other week, but I don't know if I trust Darnold, man. Some of his other games recently have been bad, too. Like, the second half of the season, he's actually been pretty bad. Like, his QBR has been, I think, below 50 for the majority of the second half of the season, which is not good. So I don't know if I trust Darnold. Like, Purdy is definitely the more trustworthy QB. And Purdy has been Mr. Clutch this year. Like, Purdy has like historically good numbers on third down this year, which is crazy. But all that being said, yes, the public is going to overvalue San Francisco here because, I mean, look at what they've done recently. They put up 37, 48, and 42 points in the last 3 games, but 2 of those were against Tennessee and Indianapolis. I mean, those teams not terrific defensively, but then And neither is Chicago. Chicago's also bad defensively, but everybody saw that game where it was a track meet. Like, both teams went up and down the field. San Francisco looked awesome in winning that game because they could just score all over the place. So the public is going to be on San Francisco after seeing that, and they're just ignoring Seattle, I think, for the most part, because Seattle just had that win against Carolina last week. Nobody cares. They didn't look good a couple weeks before that, barely beating Phillip Rivers' Indianapolis team there. In Rivers' debut, Indianapolis, they showed up for that game, and they played well defensively in that game. So, yeah, a lot of stuff going on in this game. I think I lean to the Seahawks in this game, but, yeah, man, I mean, I can't make it a play. I mean, I still can't trust Sam Darnold. I mean, we'll see what happens in this game. And now the motivation here, I think, is the same on both sides, though. So, basically, whoever wins this game is going to win the division and be the 1 seed in the playoffs. So that's what's at stake here. The winner gets the 1 seed. The loser will fall to a wild card. I believe if the Seahawks lose, they are guaranteed the 5 seed, so the top wild card. The 49ers, I believe, could either be the 5 or the 6, depending on what I forget which is the other game that matters there, but yeah, I forget exactly what the scenario is, but the 49ers could be either one of those right now, 5 or the 6. But again, teams don't really care about seeding, but obviously both teams are motivated in this game because they both want to win the division. So even though I don't think just changing your seeding is a motivating factor, obviously in this game, winning the division, having home field throughout is going to motivate these two teams. These two teams also don't like each other. And the 49ers, by the way, if they win and they get the 1 seed, they never have to leave home again, including the Super Bowl. If they actually make it there, the 49ers are the San Francisco's hosting the Super Bowl this year. So if the 49ers win this game, they never leave again, which is insane, but that is the case. We only had one other team, I think, ever, in my recollection, ever actually host the Super Bowl, and that was a weird scenario during the COVID years. It was Tampa Bay when they won against the 49ers, I believe. It was, although that was not Brock Purdy back then. It was Jimmy Garoppolo, and I think, right? Am I wrong about that? I don't know. Maybe, yeah, I think it was Jimmy G. I don't know. I forget. But it was, no, it was Tampa Bay against the Chiefs. My mistake. Yeah. It was, what am I saying? It was Brady Mahomes, right? Yeah. And I think, and maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm misremembering all of it. Well, yeah, it couldn't have been Tampa Bay against the 49ers because they're both NFC. What am I talking about? Yeah, it must have been the Chiefs. But that was, Tom Brady's last Super Bowl, whatever. But that game was hilariously at Tampa Bay, and I think it was completely rigged as well because it was during COVID. So what better than to have the home team, than to have one of the teams that's hosting the Super Bowl be in the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? It was stupid. But yes, Tampa Bay won that game easily. So if the 49ers host the Super Bowl, it might be a little bit of an edge to them playing at home, but we'll see. Because, of course, everybody travels to the Super Bowl anyway, though. So whoever their opponent is will still have a lot of fans in the crowd regardless. Now, the other thing that you do need to look at in this game is these two teams played in week 1, and San Francisco won at Seattle. So, yes, technically it is one of those divisional road revenge angles here where I talk about when a team loses the first divisional game at home, they'll be more motivated to win the game on the road. But I think you can just throw that out completely in this game because both teams are going to show up for this game. Obviously, this is a different scenario with the number 1 seed at stake, but I think what does matter is what happened in this game. Let's look at the box score. Well, San Francisco actually dominated this game, even though they only won 17-13. Brock Purdy did play in this game. He was hurt in the middle of the season, but he played here. San Francisco outgained Seattle 384-230 in the game, out first down them 24-14, and outpossessed them almost 38-22. I mean, this was total domination by the 49ers, so that is a concern. If you do like the Seahawks, that the 49ers destroyed them in this game, even though the Seahawks did have a chance to win the game at the end. And, of course, Sam Darnold pumpkined himself at the end and turned it over. Although it was, I think it was kind of his fault, even though one of his linemen kind of ran into him and caused the fumble. But whatever. So hopefully that's enough information on that game. It's been a long show here this morning, but that's going to do it, man. So I do lean to Seattle on that one. Oh, and I guess I'll talk about the total real quick in that game. 78% of tickets on the over, 57% of the cash on the over. The total is at a key number of 47.5 here. I like the under in this game, even though I know these teams played a very low-scoring game in week 1, but nobody's going to remember that. Basically, what everybody saw was the 49ers just putting up a shit ton of points 3 weeks in a row. So the public is only going to play an over in this game, and I think it might be more of a slugfest to some extent. I think both teams might be running the football in this game more than you would think. And the Seahawks need to run the football because they want to keep the 49ers potent offense off the field. So the Seahawks are going to need to be running the football in this game. And they don't want to have that much pressure on Sam Darnold. So the Seahawks definitely will be running. And the 49ers might be doing it as well with Christian McCaffrey there. Of course, the 49ers have the ability to run the football as well. And it's a divisional matchup where the teams know each other well, the whole deal. They know how to defend each other. So I think the under is actually a better play in this game than in the Panthers-Buccaneers game. But we will see what happens. That's going to do it. Thank you guys for hanging out. Masters of their own domain. Yeah, more Seinfeld references there. Like me at Porkfest, yeah. I mean, defined scoring. Dirty Sock, what's up, man? Yes, good morning. Yes, thank you, sir. Thank you, everybody. Garrett, I apologize that I am leaning against two of your teams. Oh, right, I forgot the market read. Let's go to the market read real quick. Once again, my plays today, by the way, basketball are Wake Forest minus the points, Boston College plus the points, and Long Beach State money line or minus the points, depending on what number you actually find out there. And then in hockey, we have the BJs, the Blue Jackets on the money line. NBA, we're laying the points with the Raptors. And NFL, we're going to play on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm hoping we get 2.5 on that, though, but those are the plays here. Now, as far as the market read, final market read in college basketball here, we're going to look at just my games real quick here. By the way, I said I liked NC State quite a bit as well. The money does seem to be indicating on them for what it's worth. A lot of my other leans are kind of like the indicators seem to be right on here. Wake Forest, they're up to 5.5, yeah, and they do have the money on them, so that market read is looking pretty good for me in that one. For Boston College, yep, the money, this looks like a pros versus Joe's split coming into play on that one, so that looks good as well. So, yep, BC is looking good. Long Beach, I apologize that they moved a little bit up to 2, but I think you can still get a good number on that one, and we don't see the percentages yet on that game, so not a whole lot to read into. And then I promised Garrett I would look at SMU, North Carolina here. Hang on. So this market read is all over SMU, dude. North Carolina looks like they were a 2-point favorite, although I saw SMU as a 1-point favorite last night. North Carolina is a 1-point favorite now, but the public, like I said, the public is on North Carolina at 67% of the tickets. They're a public side, quite obviously. It looks way too easy to play them. 58% of tickets on SMU. Like I said, I lean SMU in that game. That's the way that it is. The market read is indicating that. I think the rankings makers are telling you something that's not quite accurate. And the odds makers are kind of telling you what you should think in this game. But yes, I worry that SMU is not very battle-tested in that game. I talked about it last night. You can go see my analysis on that game. But if I was going to play it, yes, I would lean to SMU in that game. And it looks like a lot of my opinions that I had last night look like they're kind of panning out in the market. So I guess take that for what it's worth. But I like Tennessee. That's looking correct at the moment. What else did I have there last night? Some of these earlier games, I said Villanova, and they're actually looking like they're getting the money. Kentucky in the fate of Alabama seems like the money's agreeing with me on that one too. So again, it's we're trying to be right and handicap all these things. We're trying to get wins here. That's all we're trying to do. That's gonna do it, man. I'll learn to Toad on Instagram. Thank you, sir. Hopefully we win, of course. Thanks everybody for hanging out. Learn to Toad on Twitter. I got subscriptions there now. Learn to Toad on Instagram. You'll see my other videos come out shortly for these games here. Like, subscribe, and listen to the show here, man. Let's get more subscribers. Let's or like, subscribe, and reply, I should say. Let's get these YouTube numbers pumped up, man. And then listen on audio. We're on audio, Apple, and Spotify. You can give me good reviews there and listen. That helps me out. Covered in Uke is my Uke channel on YouTube. You can check that out as well. Want to build that up as well. Patreon.com/LearnToToad. You can get bonus Uke content. And I am on the Loser Cast, so you can check that out as well. The comedy podcast. We do 1 to 2 shows a week, nominating losers, baby. So you can check that out as well. And I will be on Gray Pill tomorrow night with Jules at I think around 8 p.m. or so Eastern, something like that. So be on the lookout for that. And I'll be back tonight to do the NFL Week 18 show, which is going to be crazy. And I think I'm probably going to have 2 or 3 plays, to be honest. Like, there are a few situations that I'm kind of like, yeah, makes sense. So we'll see. Hopefully we can get that. Hopefully we can get some more wins in the NFL here is what I should say. And I know I usually give out like teaser plays and whatever. And of course, with Seattle being -2.5 now, you can tease San Francisco up to +8.5 if you want to. Even though I kind of think Seattle's going to win the game. I don't know how likely it is that the defensive team like Seattle is going to win by a huge margin like that on the road. Probably not as likely. So San Francisco in a teaser might not be a horrible idea. But there are a couple other teaser legs that I like a lot better tomorrow. So if you have open-ended teasers, you could throw one in on San Francisco for tonight and then tie it in with tomorrow. But I will tell you that I think the Minnesota Vikings make a great teaser if they're at 7.5 here. If you can get them down to 1.5, I love the Minnesota Vikings in a teaser. And then it's just a matter of what else you kind of want. Maybe Cincinnati, because they're in kind of a similar spot to the Vikings. I think Cincinnati, teasing them down to below a field goal is worth maybe putting in a teaser as well. So, those are what I would do. It's sus. Well, I know San Francisco's a public side, but I don't know. How likely is it that San Francisco is going to lose at home in this game by 8.5 points? I mean, I don't know. I think for it's a Wong teaser, man. I mean, it's Wong teasers you can kind of just do blindly and make money if you get them right before game time when the market is at its most fine-tuned and you just fade it, go through all the key numbers of 7 and 3, basically 7, 4, and 3, either up or down. And it is a long-term moneymaker if you can pay like -120, -125 or better, but not so much at -130. And that is a 2-team 6-point teaser is what I'm talking about. But yes, I mean, San Francisco wouldn't be my favorite of the teaser legs, really. The Minnesota would be, and Cincinnati seems like not a bad one either. I'll mention it tonight as well, probably. That's going to do it for now. Peace, everybody. Happy Saturday.